Hey Patron, it's Matt with Olympus Reptiles, and for you guys, we have two of these myth videos, and one of them I want to at least, maybe both of them if I have enough stuff I can think of. What I want to cover with you guys is some different type of reptile myths that at least I don't believe to be true. I think it might depend on where you are, and that is some breeding myths. And so these are just like things that I found that they don't always apply depending on your situation. And the first one I want to cover with you is temperature drops. I get asked all the time, do you do a temperature drop or a nighttime temperature drop or a seasonal temperature drop? I don't. As a matter of fact, since we did the setup video on this incubator, on this thermostat, I haven't touched it. It's still set to the same thing. I mean, you can see it's still set to about 90. I think it's 89.8, 89.8. I mean, we could probably just tell you at 89.9, it's still using some power. They're all set to 90. You can look. I'll show you right there. Everything's set to 90, just like it always has been. And 90. Oh, there we go. Okay, high has been 91.5, low 88.2. The reason I show you that is to show you I don't do a temperature drop. We maintain the same all the time. So the fact that somebody says you have to have a temperature drop, that's a myth. You don't have to have one. If you had to have one, we wouldn't be successful. Okay, so let's say you want to do a temperature drop. Or maybe you find a temperature drop gives you a more consistent season, and I could certainly see that being plausible and being the case. It's not going to hurt, okay? If you drop the temperature a few degrees and then raise it back up or want to do all that, it's not going to hurt anything. What I'm telling you is, for anybody that tells you this is a must-have to breed reptiles or breed ball pythons, I should say, it is not. It is not a must-have. You do not have to drop temperatures. And that is certainly one breeding myth that I know of. Kurt, what are some other breeding myths? We didn't plan this very well. He's like, oh, damn it, when you put me on the spot. He's like, oh, I don't know the breeding myths. There are some other ones that are out there. But that's one of the main ones that I hear is a temperature drop. And then two, ambient room temp versus, like spot heat, like what we do. This is what would be considered the old way of doing things. There's a lot of people who have started to go to an ambient room temp. We have not. The reason we have not is, again, I think no matter which one of those you say, it's kind of a myth. I know people who have bred with an ambient room temp and been very, very successful. And you can certainly do it that way. I don't default if you do it that way. If you do it and it works for you, great. But do you have to do an ambient room temp? Or can you do a heat gradient like we do? You can do a heat gradient like we do. You can do an ambient room temp. The myth in breeding lies in that everybody wants to say that, their way is the best way. And that is this very rigid structure of steps that one has to follow. I'm going to tell you that's bullshit. It's all bullshit. And most people who are going to say, when you get on those Facebook groups that shall remain nameless, that you have to do A, you have to do B, you have to do C, and you have to do D, and you have to do E. If you don't do it just this way, the way that I say, because I've done all this research, and I've done all this stuff, and I know, okay, I'm going to bet most of those people have not been doing this very long or very successfully. The reason I say that is because when I first started, research would say one thing and we would do this and it would work for us and new stuff would come out. We'd take some of this, we'd take a little bit of this. We'd find what works best for what we do. And it's different than what works best for other people. My incubation method is different than what other people do and what works good for them. And you got to find that sweet spot for you. And there's more than one way to get the job done. What it really comes down to is, are your animals producing? If they are, you're doing it right. And when I say producing, let's be honest here. If you have 15 breeding females and you produce one clutch, you might want to evaluate what's going on and why that happened and try some new things. If you have 15 breeding females and you produce 12 clutches, don't be changing shit. It's working, right? Leave it the fuck alone. Like it's working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. As long as your animals are happy, much as a snake can be happy, healthy, producing, gaining weight back on, doing what you need them to do, and that symbiotic relationship is working, then you don't always have to buy into the latest or greatest or even my advice. I'm not one who sits there and say that my advice is always the best way for everybody to do things. In fact, it's not. My advice is the best way for Matt to do things. But if Kurt was running this reptile room, Kurt, would you run it the same way I do?
I don't know.
Or would you
I'd probably do it better, but...
Kurt would probably do it better. Listen to that. He's so humble. That's why I like working with him. No. The point I guess I'm making is over time he would modify things to work better for him. And over time we have modified things to work better for us, like how we do feeds and things like that. But you got to find what works for you. And everything being, whenever somebody says, this is the only way and it has to be done this way, it's a myth. Guaranteed. The only thing that has to happen is a daddy snake has to meet a mommy snake and has to kind of like the mommy snake, or at least, be like, whatever, I'm down. And that has to take place. And then some body stuff has to happen. And then some eggs have to get fertilized. And then they have to be kept at a certain temperature gradient area, between about probably 87 and 90, really. 87, 91, most likely. Probably even get a little warmer, but I wouldn't recommend it. And then if you have baby snakes, then you did it right. It doesn't have to be so rigid. There's more room for flex in this process than there. And here's proof. Don't take it from me. Take it from that guy, okay? And what I mean is, nature isn't freaking rigid, right? Sub-Saharan Africa is not always 88.7 degrees every day, okay? The incubation temperatures of Sub-Saharan Africa are not always 89.45. Promise you, there's some fluctuation in that. Amount of food is sporadic. If you're recreating nature, which is an imperfect beast, then you're going to be just fine. Of course, the more steady you are in some of those things like incubation temps, the more success I believe you will have personally. All right, that's all I got. Craig, you want to add?
Yeah, I thought of one.
What is one? What is a breeding myth? I never talked long
breeding snakes that are related.
That is a myth. Kind of. So you can certainly breed snakes that are related. At some point, you have to outcross. We should just do an entire video on inbred snakes. And what I mean at some point is like, okay, so Zeusy here. Hi, buddy. And he'll do it right now. He is going to go, actually, he's the offspring of, they're unrelated actually, I take that back. But he is going to go have sex with his mom. That's what he's going to do. Look at here. Here you go, buddy. Go have sex with your mom. It's perfectly fine. So he's going to go do that, maybe, a little Oedipus complex going on. And speaking of which, you should watch the Big Mouth special on Netflix if you haven't already. The Oedipus complex going on there. And those offspring are going to be perfectly fine. There will be no problems in those offspring. Case in point, this girl right here. Now, she even has a spider gene. You'll notice she does really, really well. She gets excited. She does have a little bit of a wobble to her when her head's up. But she's a healthy snake. She's doing fine. And she is the product of an incestuous breeding. And so she is a product of a mother to son pairing. Now, when I take her product of mother to son, and then when I breed her to her offspring, some flies in there, she took a poop. When I breed her to her own offspring again and again and again, no, at some point you got to outcross that. So let's say I took an unrelated pair, made some babies, I bred sib to sib to prove out something. I could do that. I probably would not take siblings from that offspring and breed it again. I probably could without any major issue get away with that, but I'm not going to. At that point in time is when it's time to bring in new blood and outcross. But a simple sib to sib pairing or a simple, offspring back to parent pairing is not going to cause you problems. It's just not. And I know it sounds a little disgusting and it sounds a little taboo for us, but trust me, it's going to happen in nature. I've got some feral cats that I'll prove the concept sometime. All right, anything else, Kurt, before we get off of here?
No.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next week.